Yeah.
I used to do both, and I split ways, and you need like new bit.
And recording is recording.
And much
They can get out.
County.
like,
who did-
County.
But then
They
the
got a
next day,
chainsaw their way out.
they did.
I didn't know that the audio was going.
Good enough.
Oh, it is.
Isn't he retired?
Yeah. So, hi, Carrie. Scott Betcher.
It's nice to meet
Nice to meet
you.
you.
I'm sorry.
Huh?
I said.
Oh, no. Well, we've corresponded and we talked on the phone. We try to
Your
work things.
printouts are back there on the table.
Okay, great. So I have my laptop. I'll turn it on and I'll just plug it into somewhere.
I can unplug this and I think you can take over.
Okay. So maybe I should just sit there and.
Yeah, I think
I
that
think we,
works.
the weather tonight.
I think they got the state in.
When you
We
watched
may not have one of these last week.
It's 6 o'clock.
I was about-
For those that are
I was virtually sitting right
online
here.
at 6 o'clock and we will
I
be
might sit
starting.
there. Well, my
our
presentation is
workshop
to the council members, so,
Okay.
yeah, and the public will hear. So I'll just sit here and then the cord, yeah, that will work
So
just fine.
Chief, he will need to go ahead and plug in his computer, so can he just undo this?
No, because we didn't connect via the HDMI, it's connected via Bluetooth.
Oh,
So I don't know how, do you need your computer for a presentation?
I don't have to. I have everything on a thumb drive. I can
Can
load
can
it
we
on
do
your
it that way,
machine.
please?
Yeah.
Because the normal computer
Maybe.
guys aren't here tonight, and I'm just
the
faking it.
normal.
I'm just faking it.
Well, our fire chief,
Okay, who's the youngest person
in
here
charge
to
of-
be able to hook this stuff up?
our fire chief is in charge of emergency
No,
management,
you're not.
and we have a
So
water
I'm gonna have to unplug my mouse.
tornado
That's the
coming
only
in.
connection.
So he's.
I get that, yeah.
Very busy.
Very smart, he's just being.
And
I'm not tech savvy, but I can look.
You're old, I mean, I think-
Did you try pressing a button?
one here.
Yeah, I do like-
Terry's guy's been,
That's the PDF next to it.
Yeah.
Sorry.
And then just drag it to your desktop.
It'll all show up here.
Okay.
Is Chris just zooming in tonight?
He is. But he won't zoom in until.
I just didn't know if I was.
I guess.
When you were police.
You get used to the regular mouse.
There's a day.
Okay, but then this one works, this is down here. So happy because it treats that I'm on it. Hard to find my mouse.
You read it over. So that-
You were.
Enable content.
Oh.
Are you connected to?
Yeah.
Or speakers or anything?
Speakers, we should be hearing on the speakers.
So let's go down here a second and see if this works. Video. Play three.
Whereas it's a complex thing for calls for purposes.
He sounds pretty Go down to.
There's working.
I just have to know how to drag it up here though.
Cancer. Yeah. Oh, it did turn around.
And if you save my presentation to your desktop, you can open my thumb drive and then you can.
Yeah.
I can just get it over here. There we go.
We weren't able to either, but she came to work for us.
So I've already read it. Ready.
Yeah.
Brenda was one of us.
Okay, I'd like to,
5 months.
if I could have everyone's attention,
Attention, everyone.
we're going to start a workshop at this time. And we were supposed to have a representative from LeMays to do his presentation.
Nope.
No. So why don't we go ahead and start with you, Scott?
Sure. Want me to?
Kim, do you want to do the introduction, please?
Yes. Okay, we have tonight from the Chehalis River Basin Flood Authority. We have Scott Betcher and Edna Fund. Edna is from the Lewis County representative, and of course, we have Frank here. Frank's Grace Harbor, Grace Harbor representative? Just Causey representative, and I'm kind of the little parrot on his shoulder.
You're
He
the
carries me around.
representative.
Not for long, I'm gonna give that up.
It's not for long. So they're just gonna give us a presentation tonight on what is going on and what the future is for the flood authority.
Okay. Do you want to say any opening words or do you want me to just jump in?
I'll just say a few opening words. I've been on the Flood Authority since 2008. And we went through a lot during those times, and we are working well together. And thanks to people like Frank, who has represented you in the past too, that we have really good people representing us as we tackle all the issues regarding flooding. Whether it's a retention dam or if it's any of our aquatic species, we're working it all. So anyway, I want to acknowledge the representation you've had from Cosmopolis. Thank you.
Right.
You're welcome, Kim.
Thank you. So maybe we can go to the slideshow mode.
I just tried, I hit the button
We
3
just
times,
tried.
it wouldn't go.
Did you go up here?
Yeah, the shortcut was what I was hitting. Maybe it's in the backdrop here.
It was working.
Here's why.
Well, they figured that out. So my name is Scott Betcher. And I'm staff to the Chehalis River Basin Flood Authority. I was here in front of you, I think like in March or April. At that point in time, we were focused on a very specific issue related to the projects that you all were doing through the Recreation and Conservation Office and the staffing challenges you had. So today, we're here to kind of give you the big introduction, which is sort of a little bit backwards, but that's okay. And we're doing this similar kind of outreach presentation to all the basin governments in the Chehalis Basin because people turn over, elected officials turn over. We've been at this since 2008, and we think it's a good idea for councils and commissions to have sort of an update presentation. So did I buy a little time there?
You bought time, but the problem is this computer thinks there's 3 monitors
Oh,
and we have 2, and I think it's sending it to the monitor that's not plugged in right now. I'm not smart enough to fix it quickly.
you, can you go down here?
Click on the PowerPoint, yeah.
It's sending the display to the monitor that's not plugged in, I think. Have it. I'm sending.
That's not working.
Yeah, I couldn't do
So-
it.
Always gotta be one hangout, Scott.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And just for information, I got a phone call from the Grace Harbor Conservation District, and their director is stuck on the other side of the mountains
Because that's
Oh,
the workshop.
with the weather.
That's the
Oh.
So
agenda.
they had to cancel out for tonight.
Okay, so
they're gonna reschedule.
we just bought some time.
So I think if we just move the PowerPoint back up to there, it'll be okay.
And we appreciate you coming to this with the interesting weather that.
Oh,
Yes.
that's fine. Maybe close that out. Just,
That's what we're trying to do.
oh, I can fire up my laptop.
I think you probably have to just drag it over.
Oh, yeah, so this is not.
Mhm. There you go.
Excellent.
Hey,
You can expand it. Full
Yeah,
screen it.
expanded. Excellent.
Whoa.
Hit the backspace all the way to the beginning.
I think you can just do your page up.
one enter.
There you go.
Yeah, we'll just go backwards. Okay. Excellent. There we go.
There we go.
Somebody's smart.
That's the hallmark of the Chehalis process is collaboration
Yes.
across different disciplines.
Right, we
So,
don't quit, we
you
just,
know,
Keep
life
going.
imitates art.
I've outed myself being able to help with this stuff.
Yeah, you're in
yes,
trouble now.
Okay.
yeah, right.
All right, so I
Thank
gave you
you.
my introduction, and what I want you to take away on this opening slide here is this process. I'm going to talk to you about the Flood Authority and some of the work that we've done since 2008. It's really come about because of a strong marriage between a commitment to flood hazard reduction and also aquatic species fish. Okay, if it were just flood, we may not be where we are. If it's just fish, we may not be where we are. But since it's both, that has brought a symmetry that has allowed this whole process to proceed. Next. So the genesis of the Flood Authority and the process that we're going to be talking to you about was the 2007 flood. Did any of you experience it? Okay. All right. Yeah. I just got some photos right now from people on North Beach who are just totally underwater right now. And so the storm was epic, but it wasn't an anomaly. Okay. That storm caused $1 billion worth of damage in 2007 dollars, 938 million. And over that 5-day period, $300 million of lost economic activity. So a lot of the tractor trailers on I-5, everything inside perished, right? So everything shut down, stopped. Next. So what I want to talk about is the Flood Authority, the Chehalis River Basin Flood Authority. There's lots of Chehalis things out there right now, and it's confusing. So I want to talk about the Flood Authority. I'm also going to talk about the Chehalis River Basin Flood Control Zone District. They are the ones who are the proponent for the dam in the upper basin that maybe you've heard about. So we want to sort of demystify and explain all that. And then we'll touch on some other Chehalis entities. So next. So the Flood Authority, as Edna mentioned, was formed in 2008. And so we are now in 2024, so that's 16 years ago. We're focused on what kinds of flood hazard reduction solutions work best for your communities. Okay. We can't stop flooding, we can't stop the rain, but we can take steps to help with the risk. We can take steps to help with post-flood resiliency, getting you back up on your feet. Okay. And so the jurisdictions that we have are, the 3 counties, Grays Harbor, Lewis, and then Thurston, and then you can see the communities under there. And that box that's highlighted on the bottom of the screen, I mean, we really are, as a group of local representatives around the basin, we're focused on our local communities, okay? The dam is focused on a big scale. That will take years and years and years. In the short run, we can do other kinds of projects. And so our decision-making method is informed by science, studies, engineering. And then we also have a very strong commitment to not pushing the problem downstream onto others. Okay, so next. So, like I said, we want to help people get back on their feet. And so in our initial years, say 2012 through 2025, we've really been focused on infrastructure and resiliency. So water wells, wastewater treatment plants, emergency corridors, those kinds of things that you need to be operable post-disaster. The box that shows budget figures, we've had $55 million that have been deployed for local projects around the basin. And then our 25, 27 capital budget request is somewhere between 3 million and 13 million. We could talk more about that. But the kind of narrative on project descriptions, drinking water, wastewater, emergency response, community protection projects. Next slide. That means 100-some projects have been done around the basin, on the ground physical projects. When we think about flooding, we tend to think super expensive. The reality is it's not super expensive always, okay? So for example, and we'll get into some of this more, but we have done 25 farm pads around the Chehalis Basin. The agricultural dairy industry was severely crippled, ruined. Farm pads were strictly earthen structures that were excavated and built so that the animals can get up there and ride out the next storm. We have 95% of the herd now available with farm pads, and that was about $600,000. And so for that investment, you've protected what you couldn't protect before. Okay, so on average, our projects cost about $450,000. They take about 2 years. We always study them and engineer them first. We don't just jump to the solution because we want to know that this is going to be successful. Next. And so kind of two numerics here. The left chart shows the number of projects that have been completed by year. From 2012, and 5 projects were done. 2019, 35 projects. 2024, 6 projects. We have another one coming online here that we'll show you about. And then you see our funding totals. We think that the public, since we're spending their money, needs to know that projects are getting done. You, of course, study, but the public tends to stick to that and say all you do is study. And so in this case, we're very, very focused on every single flood season. Some project needs to get done so we can help some community somewhere. Next. So we'll go through kind of a set of projects. This is yours, the Mill Creek Dam, okay? You had a dam, it washed away. You studied, you came up with a whole series of this multi-objective implementation plan. It was worked out with the regulatory agencies, with the tribes. It's environmentally appropriate. It has a very effective fish ladder, and you have a new dam, okay? So there is a tendency for dams to be coming out across our country, but dams are going in too, okay? And better dams are going in than the old style dams. Next. This is a project up in PL. PL, the 2007 storm came. It washed away, or I should say the river flowed through a 2-year-old wastewater treatment plant. Brand new, ruined. Public bought it twice. We paid $500,000. We built the grassy swale, and the Chehalis River is to the left, and the treatment plant is protected to the right. The grassy swale is higher than the high water mark during that flood. That doesn't cost you an arm and a leg. It costs money, but it's highly effective, and it's protecting something worth millions of dollars that you bought twice. The public bought twice. Next. Another one, Montesano Treatment Plant, closer to home for you. The Wynoochee River in the upper right-hand corner was heading headlong at the corner of the wastewater treatment plant, okay? And in fact, if you were to observe how dark that is, that's because this was sheet piled, and the river would hit the sheet pile and scour down deeper and deeper and deeper, and it was never gonna move away. And the river is starting to go this way. You can see it cutting in there, as well as working its way. So the fear was that the treatment plant was gonna be wiped out. And so we, the Flood Authority and the city and others, came up with a project that ultimately resulted in putting about $2 million worth of log jacks. And so you think of the little jack as a kid that you play, would increase that jack idea up 10,000-fold size-wise, and you have these log structures that were placed in front of the treatment plant. Now the Wynoochee River hits that, it loses its energy, it bounces off, and the Wynoochee River now is actually working its way away from the treatment plant those log structures that are protecting the corner of the treatment plant now have bushes and trees growing out of it and river otter in there. I mean, it's the place to go fishing, right? And so to us, that's a terrific project. It saved a $40 million replacement project that would take a decade if you were even to do it. And no one had that money. And it protected that treatment plant from washing down on you. Okay. It was a great project. The governor came out. Next. So a couple big projects, dams, protecting wastewater treatment plants, but we also did small projects. This was a pilot we did in Bakota in 1996. They had a huge flood. Sweep Chuck went through the town. After that, they raised a lot of homes, elevated them, but they didn't put flood vents in them. And so when you have a cinder block construction, homes that are elevated, the water rises on the outside, that pressure can topple, okay? And so we put in, we did the pilot, we put in these flood vents on a lot of homes. We did 10 homes, average cost $8,500, I guess. They're protected now, but also the elevation certificate, the little piece of paper, that's gold because they could present that back to the insurance agency and they have their flood insurance. Their risk went down, so they didn't have to pay as much. And for rural communities, economic disadvantaged communities, saving every dollar possible and not sending it out for flood insurance means win-win-win. And it was a terrific example of it's not a lot of money, but a lot of benefit. And it's not stopping flooding, but you can live with flooding. Next. Hoquiam, and we're going to get into these a bit more. We put the first pump we did in Hoquiam, $1.3 million, the Raymer Street Basin. It protects about $72 million in assets, 200 homes, elementary school, a yacht builder. During the 2022 flood that we did have a couple years ago, they pumped 51 million gallons for 30 hours. The whole basin was dry. It used to get wet. Pumps work. Next. Pumps really work. This is the airport, Chehalis Centralia Airport pump. 1.14 million state capital budget dollars. Picture on the right is the 22 flood. The levee is keeping all the water out, and the pump is keeping all the water out. Okay, and so what is so valuable about this is all the businesses that are inside the levee, and there's quite a lot of businesses inside the levee. They stayed dry. They stayed operational. That means that their continued operation kicks off $9 million in tax revenue back to the state of Washington. You pay $1 million, you get $9 million back if you never go out of business. And so you can easily talk to an Eastern Washington legislator and say, you may not care about our area per se, but these dollars are benefiting the state of Washington. And so flooding, flood hazard reduction, if done right, can be very economically advantaged for people as well as the state. Next. This is a sneak preview. Hoquiam is bringing this pump station online next month. This is the 10th Street pump station. And this basin, I think, has 12 million, 20 million. We'll see. I have another slide. But it's another pump station that is going to help the community. Next. So initially, our first 10 or 15 years were focused on just low-hanging fruit. We knew where problems were. Increasingly, we're moving more towards sort of like geographically based planning. And so the circles on the map are kind of geographic areas where we're trying to come up with flood hazard reduction solutions in areas that are really complicated. So if you take Chehalis and Centralia, the water fills that area, but the problem is so big, I can't solve it just on my piece of property or on your piece of property. In fact, I need all of our properties. Well, to get everybody on board, you have to have some sort of process. And so we're engaging in these areas in kind of a geographically based investment planning process, we're calling it. So next. Like I said at the very beginning, the Flood Authority and its projects are focused on what works best for your communities. The Chehalis Basin in the upper, in the PL on the left, that's a cross-section profile. The water is highly erosive. It comes roaring out of the Willapa Hills. It comes roaring down out of PL. It comes down into Chehalis and Centralia, and it just flattens out, okay? And it has to squeeze through Mellon Street before it can go into the lower basin where it spreads out. I mean, the basin is very wide. So before it gets all the way down to Cosmopolis, Hoquiam, and Aberdeen, which are at sea level, basically. The solutions that PL needs are different than the solutions that you need, and vice versa. So we take the geographic consideration strongly into how we do our projects. Next. Okay, so this is Aberdeen and Hoquiam. The colored splotches are different basins. Raymer Street was right here. This whole basin was dry, $72 million with that pump. 10th Street is coming online, smaller one, 17 million. Next slide. I'm gonna go back a slide, 1 second. Yeah, so all these basins are being studied and looked at for pump stations. Some of them are going to be joined, but if you take the assessed values in all of these basins, you're $1 billion. Okay, next slide. And you know the end point here is the total price tag we're projecting right now is about $50 million for pumps in the lower basin in Aberdeen and Hoquiam. It's the only thing that's going to work. You can put a levee, but you got to pump the water out. So $50 million to protect $1 billion is a good investment. Okay, we think. So we are probably about 58% with the funding request that we have going to hopefully to the Chehalis Basin Board. That will fulfill 24%, and that will just leave us about 18%. And so we went from 6 years ago, none of this, to now we have pumps that are 2 coming online. Aberdeen's going to have 2 more in the next 2 or 3 years. And those communities, and when those communities get their levy, there's a lot of flood insurance money that doesn't have to be paid anymore. A lot. So terrific solution. Next. Okay, so that's local projects. The Flood Authority does local projects. We've been doing it since 2008. We think we spend the money wisely in cost-effective ways, and we're proud of that. The other thing that we do is we have this flood warning system, and you might have gotten a handout or it's available back there. The flood warning system was necessary because 2007 storm caught everybody by surprise. The National Weather Service didn't forecast it. People weren't expecting it. If you fast forward to today, this picture and all those dots, those are gauges, stream gauges, weather stations operated by the USGS, the Department of Ecology, the Flood Authority, the Quinault Nation, NOAA, others. Many of those existed, but they weren't communicating with anybody except for the people that owned them. Now those are communicating with radio telemetry back to the National Weather Service. So the Weather Service, coupled with the Doppler radar that's out there now, they make their forecast based upon what's actually happening on the ground, how much rainfall is actually coming down in an isolated area, or what is the river actually doing. That weather forecast is 100% accurate. They're not wrong compared to 2007. And so, you know, the surprise factor, we think, has really gone away if you're attentive to this. Next. Another key piece of our flood warning system is you can sign up for, and that's what the handout back there is to get gauge alerts. You get an email that says on any one of those 14 gauges, what's the river doing right now? And once the river hits a certain height, usually about 1 foot or 2 feet before flood stage, it will send off an alarm to you. And it gives you time to decide, I want to go check on a relative. I want to go move my animals. I'm not in a panic mode because I haven't heard from emergency management saying I got to do something in panic. I'm in advance of a panic and I can be proactive and rational about this. We started in 2014 with a small number of signups, 379. You know, now 24, 25, we're up to 4,200. That's current as of a couple days ago. Our stretch goal this year is 5,000. And, you know, people like the Department of Transportation, get this information, disseminate it through their networks. The hospitals get this information, disseminate it through their networks. So we know we're reaching a large number of people. And all of this doesn't stop flooding, but it makes you make smart decisions and not make decisions in a panic or a crisis. Next. We're putting a new tide gauge down at the port. Why is this important? The Chehalis River is tidally influenced up to about Montesano. And so we can give you very accurate river forecasts from PL down to Montesano because it's just river water. But once you start to have this oncoming down water and up water, it's a lot more complicated. And so the basin board that I'm gonna talk about, they approved funding for this tidal gauge. We hope to install it in the next several months. We have to collect about a year's worth of data before we can understand the tidal contribution here. But that will mean that the whole Chehalis River will be under a single forecast. And from Montesano all the way down here. Why is that important? It's important for a lot of reasons, but it's super important for the city of Aberdeen and Hoquiam when they administer and manage that North Shore levee, because they need to know if when they close off with this, what they call them, stop gates, or they close off the roads, and they don't want to make the wrong decision that ends up in the newspaper, right? And so they want to close off when it's appropriate, and having that river forecast and that good solid understanding of how things are behaving down there will help them in that decision-making process. Next. So the other entity is the Flood Control Zone District, and they are the advocates and the proponent for the dam in the upper basin that maybe you've heard about. The dam in the upper basin is a flow-through dam. It's very modern. It's very unique. Next slide. And I have about a almost 5-minute video. I really think you should watch this. Let's turn it on and hear the sound, because it gives you a different impression of what a dam can be.
Welcome to the Chehalis River, flowing through the forested and rolling Willapa Hills, through fertile farmland and valleys, to the marshes and beaches of the Pacific Ocean. The Chehalis supports the fish, wildlife, and communities that call Washington's second largest river basin home. Water shapes the landscape in the beautiful Pacific Northwest. The slow and steady precipitation for most of the year can fall via atmospheric rivers during the winters. As storms move through the Chehalis Basin, rainwater makes its way to the river. The natural environment handles change well, and the river rises and falls throughout the year. But when extreme weather and intense downpours strike, the waters of the Chehalis can range. A single major storm can cover dry land in as much as 8 feet of water. The flooding can cause hundreds of millions of dollars in property damage, close I-5, destroy public infrastructure, and displace thousands of people, all in a matter of days. Traditional responses to flooding, like many of the ancient dams across the nation, reduced flood risk to people at the expense of fish and a river's natural flow. But modern advanced technology means we don't have to make this trade-off anymore. The state of Washington and the Office of Chehalis Basin, through a basin-wide strategy, are evaluating something new for the Chehalis River. The FRE, the technical name for the flow-through dam for flood control on the Chehalis River, may look like a traditional dam, but this world-class structure is very different. This technologically advanced structure allows the river to flow naturally and fish to swim up and downstream without obstacle under all but the most severe weather conditions. It's also tailored to the unique needs of the Chehalis Basin. It focuses specifically on minimizing and avoiding negative impacts to Chinook and coho salmon, steelhead, cutthroat trout, Pacific lamprey, western brook lamprey, and more, while protecting people, property, and infrastructure from catastrophic flood damage. Based on cutting-edge research and innovative design, the flow-through dam for flood control mimics the height of the riverbed, allowing the river to continue its natural flow in normal conditions and fish to pass upstream and downstream on their own. This design, called Volitional Fish Passage, lets fish navigate the river on their own to find food, hide from predators, and rest. Instead of hitting a barrier as they would at a traditional dam, fish can move unaided through the structure through open pathways called conduits. The conduits mirror the depths, flow rates, and sediment fish find in other parts of the river during migration. The flow-through design also promotes natural river processes, so sediment and fish can move through the conduits during periods of higher flow. To predict major and catastrophic floods, the structure temporarily operates like a dam, holding back water and reducing downstream flow. In the last 20 years, the flow-through dam for flood control would have held back floodwater just 3 times, but the benefits would have been substantial. Thousands of structures and hundreds of millions of dollars of damage to homes, farms, and other infrastructure would have been avoided. I-5 would have been protected. Thousands of people would have been able to stay safely in their homes instead of being displaced. The 2007 event alone caused over $900 million in damages. Only during these types of flood events, when the structure is holding back water, would an advanced trap and haul facility be used to pass various fish species and life stages upstream. To maintain flow downstream, even during extreme events, the flow-through dam for flood control will release average wintertime flows, ensuring the river would never run dry during operation. After the flood risk has passed, the conduit gates would reopen to allow fish to move freely through the dam again. The Chehalis Flood Control Zone District is proud to propose a flood risk solution that serves the needs of fish, preserves the riverine ecosystem, and protects communities. This proposal for a modern flood protection facility is currently under state and federal agency review. For more information, please visit the website www.ChehalisRiverBasinFCZD.com to learn more about the flow-through dam for flood control and how it will benefit the Chehalis Basin.
So the takeaways on this dam, it's flow through. The water continues to flow through, fish can go through. When it closes, and it would have only closed 3 times in the last 20 years, it backs up water, and it takes about 30 days or so to release that water back out. So it builds up and then it releases out. And it really, all you're trying to do is moderate that flow to make it down through Chehalis and Centralia and out. That dam is designed in response to just what the process should do. We went through a draft environmental impact statement at the state and federal levels. They identified problems, the project was redesigned, and here we are today. So next.
No. How do I get it to go? Oh,
Maybe just
yeah.
click up outside of that box and then you'll
Okay,
just,
okay, there we go.
there you go. So we're working towards closure here. All things Chehalis, okay? This is how it's all sort of structured. The Office of Chehalis Basin, the Chehalis Flood Authority, that's, we were talking, we appoint 3 members to the Chehalis Basin Board, okay? The Chehalis Basin Board is sort of like the policy body that is overseeing this whole Chehalis Basin strategy at flood and fish, small projects, large projects. They're administered by the Office of Chehalis Basin within the Department of Ecology. This office was created in 2016 for multiple reasons, but one of which is when it comes time to build that big dam, if it does proceed forward all the way, it's a lot of money and it's federal money, okay? And you have to have somebody on the scene to take it. And then there's this whole network of partners. Who is the network of partners next? All of these people, okay? And what's remarkable about this is they are all working towards common goals and objectives around fish and flood. How do we know they're successful? Because for 5 biennia, the Flood Authority, the flood process has received healthy funding from the state legislature. If there's disagreement, if there's disharmony, the legislature doesn't fund you. They fund you if there are results and if there's collaboration and if you're pushing government to do more than it normally does. And this process has been a joy to be a part of, as I think any of us would attest to, because it is so collaborative. And all these people, tribes, agencies, there are always conflicts, but in in the bigger picture, they're all working towards the same objectives. Next. So today, we are much better than 2007. We have a state-of-the-art flood warning system. No one should be surprised by flooding. The weather forecast is super accurate. We've got 100 some projects up and down the basin. We're serving individuals to governments, not just individuals. And we have a governance structure in place that is delivering money every single biennium so that we can continue to deliver results. So next. So Vicki Rains is the chair of the Flood Authority, and she's a chair of the Basin Board, county commissioner. Edna Fund is the vice chair of the Flood Authority, and then she's the chair of the Flood Control Zone Districts Advisory Board. Frank is your former Flood Authority representative, then you brought him back as emeritus. And Kim is
what you call it.
Yeah. He's training Kim, and Kim is your alternate, and then I'm staff. So there you go. That's the Flood Authority. I hope that was helpful.
Well, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Yeah.
And I'm happy to take any questions. Yeah.
Does the Flood Authority currently have any projects for, looking at infiltration into sanitary sewer systems in the harbor?
No, not per se. So here's, I can answer that. So the Flood Authority is not really focused on stormwater per se. We're focused on floodwaters. Now that there's a lot of crossover. Okay. One of the projects, knowing that geographically the only sets of solutions that are going to work down here are levees and pumps, practically speaking. The Flood Authority funded Aberdeen, Hoquiam, and Cosmopolis to work together on a joint flood plan. And that joint flood plan was to establish common kinds of pump technology. It was also to establish a rate structure to ensure that whatever the state capital budget thought could be maintained. And then to figure out what your stormwater and your floodwater capacities were. And so if you have infiltration, that's working against your capacity. And so the public works directors of Aberdeen, Hoquiam, and Cosmopolis, they're to be working on this draft plan, and it will be available if it's something you'd like to see. How they're each individually dealing with infiltration, I can't speak to that. But the idea is we wanted everybody down here working together because the kinds of problems you have here are common. And if Causey takes it one way and Aberdeen takes it another way and Hogan takes it a third way, that's not really working. Hope that helps.
Thank you, Scott.
Sure.
I'd like to ask, have any of you availed yourself of the flood warning system so you personally get information? If not, you can do that.
I haven't. I don't know if anybody else, but definitely going to moving forward. Good
It's a good
information.
thing to have.
Yeah, I wasn't
Absolutely.
aware of it. I do use the Grace Harbor College alert system, so I don't know if I
You get email.
log into that. So
The Grace Harbor
they have an alert
So this,
system.
alert,
this
okay.
is different than the weather.
Yeah.
I know that I generally get flood alert, so maybe that's
Yeah.
not part of it. But I'll definitely sign up.
Yeah,
Okay,
and we
please do.
realize it's confusing because, there's so many people being helpful.
Right.
Yeah, take that and pass it around and.
Okay.
Yeah. And you can sign up online and you can pick which gauges you're interested. You can select them all or just the ones immediately
So this
upstream.
is helpful. So I'm on weather alerts and all of that, I guess, assumption. Should never assume that it wouldn't be part of it, but and it's not.
And this is real specific to our.
Yeah, this is really specific to our area. I mean, Grace Harbor Emergency Management knows about it, Lewis County Emergency Management. They all have their own separate systems too. And, it's challenging sometimes for the public to be faced with so many helpful systems.
Right.
So we can continue to improve to get closer and closer and work towards single systems, but, so anyway.
So are you working toward a more collaborative effort with those? Because we have those other two alerts. Are you working? So it's more of a kind of collaborative effort, bringing those other systems together?
So, yes and no. Okay, so we are what we consider, the flood authority at least, shoestring. We're not heavily resourced.
Okay,
The whole effort is heavily resourced. Making sometimes single systems that are be all end all super systems, it all backfires.
okay,
So we go to we work with Lewis County on their annual flood meeting. We advertise, we have people push stuff out through social media, but we don't have a single system yet. We're not,
we will definitely show that,
yeah,
thank you.
yeah, please do.
Yes.
Yeah, we'll take copies and put them out on our table.
Yeah,
Wonderful,
Yeah.
wonderful.
and share it through your
And
media.
I was gonna say, can we go ahead and post this?
Absolutely.
We'll
Yeah,
make sure to do
we're going
that.
for 5,000 this year.
And Frank, you had a
Yeah.
comment you wanted
Mr.
to.
Swalander.
Scott, you might not know this, the local newspaper tonight on the front page has a splash about the Fry Creek pump station.
Yes,
I can get, did you see?
I saw that. It's in the Chronic, and it's about all of the basin, the pumps down here.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a great article.
Yeah, they had one just the other day that showed one pump out of the running and all the west end's dry, folks, it was pumped out.
Well,
Yep.
you and I watched
Yeah.
what those were capable of.
Oh, my goodness gracious.
Yeah, yeah. So,
One deal that I've learned in just a few months is this idea of collaboration that this group has. It's not just focused in one direction, and by bringing all these outside entities together to come up with what is a solution for whether it be the farmer or the business owner or the highways or whatever is shown in what they've done and how they've, to me, what has progressed along here. One comment was made at one of the meetings about the Army Corps of Engineers said they could take care of the flooding in Centralia, Chehalis by putting a dike on each side of the freeway. The only thing they're concerned with is
they're free.
the freeway and merchandise moving up and down the freeway. They could have cared less about the farmer and his cow out there. So having a group such as this
Yep.
that concerns itself with everybody and that's involved in the basin
Yeah.
is a way to go, I think.
If one last from me, I find almost fascinating the idea of a group of people who on an ad hoc basis got together back in 2008 and put something together as significant as this is. And really interesting is the delegates come from, of course, you saw all over the basin.
Right.
But when they walk through that door, they leave their hat in the hallway. So a problem at Bucota packs the same
That's right.
importance, if you will, as one in Hopewind.
Yeah.
Or in Centralia, or Montesano. And it's really been just fascinating to watch over the years.
We are not a competitive process.
Absolutely.
Good.
That's right.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you. And again, I want to thank you, Frank, for stepping up and doing that and mentoring our Councilman Skinner. And
Well, just
we
so you
appreciate-
know, that step is about to come to a conclusion.
Well, we'll just hope a little bit longer.
I want to retire.
Okay. I understand that. So I'd like to move on. In this workshop tonight, we have another guest with a presentation. Roger von LeMay, are you ready?
I'm sorry, I didn't know I thought it was later.
Actually, you were at the beginning, but we are just glad you're here.
Oh, yeah, I'm sorry.
Not a-
Early, I tell you.
6 to 7.
Well, I thought it was at 7.
Yeah.
Sorry.
No, no,
That's
Okay.
okay, you're here.
I apologize.
no, you don't need to apologize. We're just glad you're here.
Okay,
Thank you.
well, I see a lot of new faces on the council and the mayor and everything.
Before Roger starts, I think you guys are gonna head out.
Yep, yes.
Yeah, you're gonna get on the road.
Yeah, have a safe trip.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming.
Watch out for bomb cyclones.
Or tornado.
Scott, we'll be talking again soon,
Good,
okay?
thank you. Yeah. And I believe you should be having a resolution coming your way from the flood authority.
Okay.
It's a lot warmer in here than out there. You ready? When you go outside. So I see a lot of new faces. You want to
Come on
come
up. So everyone can,
however you want me to.
There's a one empty chair right there, Roger.
You want me to do that? Whichever.
You're not the attorney, but you can say.
Yeah, please don't put me in that position.
And actually, our attorney will be on at 7, so you're good.
Okay. Anyway, I see new faces, Mayor and Clerk. I'm Roger Swalander, District Manager of LeMays. And I know a few people from past and a lot of new faces, but it's good to see you. So with that, I'd just like to explain a little bit more about how the contract is set up and how the rate adjustments are, if you don't mind.
Absolutely.
So the contracts are set up so that they do have an annual increase, and a lot of people kind of question that. The idea behind that is that when these contracts were originally made, they were real lifetime. So the rates were for the cost of that time. And then with an annual increase, which is adjusted by the CPI every year, we just maintain that cost revenue. And it's I know nobody likes an increase. I don't like increases. I know people are on fixed incomes. My parents were on fixed incomes. But with that small increment every year, you don't hurt somebody's budget as bad as if you wait 10 years and then do it. So that's the idea of the annual increase in how the contracts are set up and why they are that way. The rate adjustments are composed of two different parts. One is the rate of disposal per ton. So when the rate of disposal at the transfer station goes up, a percentage of that is passed on in the rates of this. It's straight pass through. So like this year, the disposal costs are going up. Let me find my notes here. From 127.69 to 130.49, which is pretty minimal when you put it per pound. So that is passed straight through. The other part of the component of the rate adjustment is the CPI, the Consumer Price Index. So with this year's CPI was, sorry, I usually have this 4.225%. Well, we only adjusted 80% of that. So we're actually going a little bit behind from CPI, but we're maintaining that. So that's the two components of the rate adjustment. And that's in the contract, and that's how it's set up. The tonnage for the disposal is just straight pass through. It goes up, that is adjusted to the rates. And then the CPI is what the cost of living adjustments are going forward. This year, the adjusted rate for CPI was 3.4%. And the tonnage went up, like I told you. Let me find my other page, which breaks it out a little bit better. And I think you all have the packet of this in front of you. And so on this one page, it identifies that actually the pounds per ton increase is 0.0014 cents per pound that is going up. These are calculated by a 95-gallon cart is so many pounds, and depending on the service. Let's see. Is there any questions about that, or?
No. So tonight, this is your presentation. I do want the citizens to know, I remember when I was sitting out there in your seat, and the last time you came and presented to the council, and I think you asked a question, about looking at other companies. So as a mayor, I always do reach out, and I do want to tell citizens and the council that I did reach out to Hometown Brooklyn Sanitation, and they did say that your rates are comparable to what they would charge, and really advise that we should probably stay with your contract because they're not really able to do anything different than what you're presenting, and these rate increase, they also are having them too. So I do want our council to know that and citizens to know that. So I did, it was probably when we knew this was coming, I met and showed what you presented to us in compelled rates.
So we want to be fair, like I said, I'm not.
Well, and, we want to make sure that we're in a small city with very little revenue, that we're looking at all of our costs. And you are, when I did check, that your costs are consistent with the other sanitation service. So, and we've appreciated your service.
Thank you.
So we won't be taking action on this, I guess, if there's questions or the council has questions.
You look like you want to ask.
I've got a question. I don't know if it's my turn to talk.
Okay.
Looking at the rate chart, if I may, Madam Mayor, looking at the rate chart, in item 1, residential services, does that include the recycle bin also in those prices?
Yes, yes,
So-
this,
It's a,
yeah, those are
Combo.
mutual things. So all of our contracts except for 1, 2, 1, the recycle is included in that.
okay, that's my question. Thank you.
Yeah.
And also, when does this contract expire?
Through 27, 2027.
Okay, thank you.
You know, and they said, just looking at that, if we really wanted to consider, that would be a good time to look at it, but at the time,
No, we're tied through 27.
right.
And if you don't mind me.
No.
Hi, Dan. Didn't reckon, sorry. So with that too, I have no problems if you guys want something different, or changes. There's nothing, there's no reason we can't negotiate or talk before that time. So if come that time, everybody's on board, it's an easy transition and, away we go. So
Right.
keep that in mind. If there's something that, we can amend things, we can do things, if there's other things you need.
And definitely would love to have that conversation. I think it was important for the council and citizens to know that you're right there with the other sanitation company
It is.
for the rate increases.
When it comes time for that, it'd be appropriate, I think, for this council to go for competitive bids. 2 local outfits, competitive bids, good thing. Because it doesn't affect the city's finances at all.
Right.
It affects my pocketbook, affects your pocketbook, affects your pocketbook. And that's who you're supposed to serve, is my pocketbook.
Yes. So thank you, and I think you made it very clear that you'd be willing to sit down the table and we get bids out there.
Yeah.
So council
Anything?
will be coming, anything else that you'd like to know?
No, any questions, any further questions?
Can you tell me what the total revenue May collects from the city as a whole?
No, I can't, honestly. I don't have that broke out, and I apologize.
Does the city know how much utility tax is charged to the citizens from that?
Don't
Revenue.
have that figure. Mm-mm.
So we pay the city, the
They
utility
do pay
tax,
utility tax.
that rates of, I think it's 2.5,
It seems like. it's a-
6%.
Yeah, and it seems like it's around between $1,400 and $1,600 when it comes in every month.
A month. So roughly $1,600 a month based on 6%.
Mhm.
And I apologize, I don't have that broke out. Can only remember so many things.
So at the next meeting, we'll go ahead and look at this and take action on it.
Okay.
Okay.
And that's December 4th, I believe.
Correct.
Okay.
So you said the contract's good till 27. Are you wanting to push the contract out farther? Or what are we?
So the contract's written out that, in the year of renewal or extension, it's written in there that there's nobody contests or nobody has, any reason that it will roll another 5 years, is the way it's written.
Gotcha.
But like I said, I'm more than willing to sit down prior to that and work things out, add things, change things, whatever. We've done that with other cities also.
Perfect, thank you.
We want to be partners. That's what we look at it. We want to be partners with the city and the citizens. What you guys need and what we can do and work it out that way.
Thank you. Okay, well, thank you.
Thank you.
You're welcome to stay for the next hour.
I'm really messing this up because last time I came to 6 and I was wrong and then, so I don't really know.
We
That's-
do
We
this,
appreciate you.
yeah, we do this to keep people on their toes.
Well, that's good. I'm glad that you do. I need that.
No, thank you.
Thank you. And I apologize, I misunderstood.
Oh, no.
No, you're good. All right. I have one more question you'll answer. These rates, is that a single month or is that?
That's monthly. That's a single month. And so with that, just to throw out another thing,
And it's a bi-monthly bill. So
Correct.
that would be the 3402 times 2 or whatever that rate is
Correct.
times 2.
and so your most common service with everybody is a 65 gallon every other week. And that's going up $1.06 a month. Bottom, that's an easy way of looking at everything. So it's an easier way to picture it.
It is.
So,
And you do this yearly? It's in the contract that it's a
Yeah.
yearly look at for?
yeah. And for the reasons that I'd expressed
Oh, yeah.
earlier.
Yeah.
Expensive
But it's not up till 27.
wages.
Correct. Yeah, everybody has things that go up and nobody wants that free stuff and.
Everything's going up this day and age.
Yeah,
Oh, I didn't, my
so,
social security.
That's the only thing that probably does.
It didn't go up.
okay, we are ready to go into the next part of the meeting. Thank you very much.
Thank you,
Thank you
everybody.
very much.
Okay, tonight,
Thanks, Roger.
Thank you.
Tonight, Chief, would you lead us?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice.
This is Mayor Springer. It is Wednesday, November 20th, 24, and it is 7 o'clock. And I call the council meeting to order. Clerk Carr, will you do roll call?
Councilmember Skinner,
Present.
Councilmember Nguyen,
Present.
Councilmember Spargo,
Here.
Councilmember Colette,
Present.
Councilmember Darcy. All council members are present.
Okay. So moving on, approval of agenda. Is there a motion to approve agenda for tonight's meeting with these changes?
Councilman Spargo motions to approve.
Councilman Skinner, second.
Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all of those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, moving on. Consent agenda, is there a motion to approve the consent agenda?
So moved.
Who,
Skinner, so moved.
thank you.
Councilmember Colette, seconds.
Is there any discussion? All of those in favor of approving the agenda? Say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Moving on. Council comments. Council, do you have any comments at this time?
None from this end of the table.
I'll just make a quick announcement about an upcoming, small event that some of the citizens have worked together with myself and, Councilman Spargo to put together. We're gonna just have a brief little tree lighting ceremony at the fire station corner here. Chief Valley has generously agreed to put lights up on that tree with volunteer firefighters, and we'll be having just a really brief lighting ceremony, maybe some refreshments, perhaps a visit from Santa, or anyone who would like to join us for that. It will be tentatively Sunday, December 8th, around 5 p.m. There'll be more information to come.
Thank you, Councilman Nguyen.
Yeah, any questions, feel free to reach out.
I do have something to add. We are going to cancel the Parks and Cemetery meeting for next Wednesday due to the holidays, and so we will reconvene next month. That's all I have.
Okay. Any other comments? Okay, hearing none, we're going to move on to committee reports. Auditing committee.
Nothing for me at this time.
Okay. Parks.
Nothing new at this time.
Public safety.
Well, we had a meeting last Monday, but I think that the chiefs probably do a better job presenting anything than I would.
Okay.
Well, I guess one thing that we discussed, that didn't get brought up at our last meeting was our pilot program of our, resident firemen. And, we want to extend that out That program, we had said it was for 6 months. We'd like to continue that program with the chief involved with the decisions. There is the idea of trying to find some stipend for the residents that are staying here. We're still in negotiation as to how much that might be. It was proposed at one time, $500 a month for those that are residents here. We're working on that, knowing the finances of the city, and we will try to move forward with a proposal at our next council meeting.
Okay. Public Works.
Nothing new at this time.
So we're gonna move on to city officials, Clerk Barr.
The state audit is still ongoing. I do owe them a few reports, which I hope to have to them tomorrow. They hope to wrap up the majority of everything this month. So,
Chief Lehman.
Good evening, council. First thing I want to convey to you is to publicly acknowledge from Chief Valley and I tonight, thank you to the Cosmopolis Elementary School for the use of a scissor lift in the tall ceilings in the bay out here. Allowed use of it so we can make emergency repairs to a fire alarm component that was causing the system to go off over and over. They failed, and the elementary school was kind enough to let us use that equipment we otherwise wouldn't be able to get to without spending money. Tomorrow, we're participating in an event at school we're excited to be a part of. We're giving you a good report at the next meeting on how that went. It's fun to be a part of the community in that way. We're also working on a memorandum with a company called Flock Safety. No cost to us right now to be on the system, and unless we ever were to find some money that we didn't know existed and buy cameras ourselves, we are going to be able to use a system that basically we would be able to put in our stolen cars, things like that, and get emergency alerts off of the agencies that are paying for that, like Montesano, Sheriff's Office, Aberdeen, Oakland, and some other entities that are doing it. And it would also allow us to get a notification if it's coming our direction off the same camera system so that we could be watchful for missing persons, stolens, wanted people, that kind of stuff. So it's a good system and it's of no cost to us. So I'm working on that process. Commander Timmons has been great at helping me with that. That's all I have.
Okay, and our Chief Valley could not be here. He's out doing his primary job, doing the tornado watches, the warnings, reporting on that and keeping watch over that. So he gave his apologies, but he is taking care of business. Bill, and then I'm sorry, I do this to you every time.
Steve Timmons.
Steve Timmons from Aberdeen. Anything that you'd like to report? I know you sent your report over and I apologize, I didn't get it printed out. Do you recall any of the numbers off the top of your head?
Yeah, I keep it here. So I forgot some since our October 1st, we've had, we responded to 15 calls over here in Cosby. That doesn't count any of the assists, but just calls we've handled when Cosby wasn't available. And then we've had 94 calls total since May 1st.
Okay, thank you. And then we have building official Bill Cedar.
Apologize for not being here at the last meeting. I was a referee high school volleyball, so I was over in Hoquiam doing the 1A districts. As far as what's been happening since the last council that I was here, I've been working on the fee schedule. I've got a preliminary miscellaneous fee schedule that I typed up, but I found some other fees that weren't on there that I didn't have, so I'll be adding to that. And then I've been checking with other jurisdictions as far as building permit fees. I'm probably, based on what we're using now, which is our 98 figures, I'm probably gonna go somewhere halfway between Aberdeen and those figures. So it's not a great, big, huge hit. We did have another variance hearing tonight that passed with a caveat. I need to check on the CCRs for that area up in the hill, up in Paisley, to make sure that the variance doesn't violate any of the CCRs, which nobody has really remembered about because they've done over 20 years ago when everybody's started moving in up there. I've had 4 or 5 code enforcement complaints that have come in. Notices have been sent out. One of them I am currently working on. I made a phone call tonight to ascertain what was going on because things looked like they were moving really slow. And the person that I've been dealing with won't be back into town until Friday. She will be going by, checking on it, and then reporting to the owner of the property to move forward there. If we can't get any movement in the next few weeks on that, then I'll probably be talking with Chief Lehman about issuing a citation and moving them into court to see if the court system can't move them along a little faster. Other than that, most of them have been overgrowns. We had one down here where the blackberries, those were taken care of after we convinced her that she did own the property. Then that's about it as far as my report goes. Their building stuff is really slowing down at this time of the year. Things really slow down.
Thank you. So this is our second meeting this month, and so the mayor's report, I thought, oh, do I need to just make up something for you? But I'm not going to do that. I'm going to just thank my staff. They have been very, very, very busy working on the budget and the audit. And as Clerk Barr was saying, this audit season has been a very tedious and long one. They're being very thorough and going through a lot of information, and hopefully we'll be finished. But I really appreciate the staff and all the work that they put into this. At this time, I guess before the evening and before we end, and we've got a bit more to go into, but I just want to wish the Council Hill a happy Thanksgiving and the citizens of Cosmopolis. And then we're going to move on to new business, our CPA. And as I said, our attorney is online, Chris Coker, and then Tara Dunford is our CPA, and she's online. And we will be going into new business and discussion, and we are going to be talking about the public hearing on the 2025 preliminary budget. And that's the Clerk Barr.
Thank you. Tara, can you hear us?
Yes, I can. Good evening, everyone. The first item on the agenda for tonight is a public hearing on the preliminary budget. We've made a few minor changes since the version that council received at the last meeting. That was to correct the fire chief salary on the FTE schedule. That was an error only on that schedule. It did not impact numbers. We also updated the EMS fund revenue projections. And we increased the emergency dispatch budget by $6,500 based on the actual contract received for 2025. Other than that, the book is as presented last time. This is now the public's chance to comment on the preliminary budget. The public will have another chance to comment on the final budget at another public hearing as well, which is scheduled for December 4th currently. Later in this meeting, council will have the opportunity to respond to public comments and deliberate further on the budget.
Are there any public comments at this time during this public hearing? Tara, we hear none.
Okay, moving on to item 2. Tara, this is a second reading of ordinance 1395.
Thank you. Okay, this one is your property tax levy for 2025. This is really important for council to adopt tonight. The reason being is the deadline to get the signed ordinance and levy certification form to the county is next Wednesday, the 27th. So this is your last council meeting before then. As a reminder, we held a public hearing on revenue sources at the last meeting and presented this ordinance at the last meeting for first read. Nothing has changed in any of the documents since then. In the packet under types of action, I've put 2 options for council. Either a recommended motion to approve the ordinance as written, or a recommended motion for approving the ordinance with a 0% increase. As a reminder, the dollar difference is only $222 for the 1% and banked capacity, or 0%. This is due to the way the administrative refunds are factored in.
And Tara, just to clarify, that's not $222 per person. That's for the city as a whole.
Excellent point. Yes, that is absolutely correct.
Thank you, Tara.
Tara, this is Councilman Spargo. I do have a question for you regarding if we decide to go with a 0 increase. What negative impacts would that have?
It does lower your budget amount for the general fund only by the $222. That's because the city got a fair amount in administrative refunds last year. It was just under $5,000. So that kind of skews the numbers. We do anticipate refunds again this year. So the actual dollar impact on the city's budget is truly only $222 this year.
Okay, thank you.
Mayor Springer, at this time, I'd like to make a motion to recommend accepting the ordinance as written with the 1% increase.
And we'll do that here. Is that right?
Correct. We do have a point in the agenda where we will actually call for action.
New
It's on
business,
item number 11.
I stand
new business
corrected.
council action, yes.
It's okay. It's a new format. We're all getting used to it.
We'll give citizens an opportunity for public comment.
Correct. Correct.
So, are there any other comments at this time? Hearing none, we'll move on to number 3. This will be the first reading of ordinance 1396 for the budget. Clerk Barr, or Tara?
Tara,
Yeah,
do
so
you-
this is just the council's opportunity to comment upon the budget, to direct us as to any changes they would like to see to the document for next time. We are not asking council to take action on this. In fact, we should not take action on it yet because we haven't held the required final public hearing. But this is a chance for council to deliberate amongst yourselves. If there's things that you like or don't like in the budget, if there are things that you would like more information on or items you'd like to see taken out for next time, it would be helpful for us to have that guidance so we can update the documents accordingly.
I do have a question. It's probably not going to impact any of the allocations of the funds, but I'm still not clear on the local improvement district fund, where that money is coming from and what it's to be used for. Have we received any insights into that fund?
Not that I'm aware of, unless Clerk Barr or Mayor Springer have more information.
I don't have information at this point in time, but it will be priority for me to figure it out. I do know that we did have a company that helped us with the LID fund that I have their name. They're called Public Finance Limited. So I will be contacting them to find out if they can provide any direction as far as what this was and what the money is left for. I do think we also have to call the attorneys on this.
And as I said, we have
determine
a call into
direction
the
of-
bond attorney, she's looking into that.
Okay. Would you have any more insight on ways we could investigate that fund? Tara, sorry.
Oh, I'm sorry. No, it is a call to bond counsel and working with them to get guidance on what you can do with the balance that's left over. That is legitimately a time-consuming process. So and we're not saying it's not important. It absolutely is important, and it would be nice to be able to free up that money. But rest assured, the fund is sitting there and the money is intact, until we have a determination on what we can do with it.
Thank you.
I have one question. Councilperson Darcy, I have a question about the, what is the impact on the budget looking next year around the water and sewer situation that we have going on with Aberdeen? How is that going to impact this budget now, since that's not really a part of it, or is it, in here?
The
What are we-
water fund should be fine as it is. We have factored in rate increases into the water budget. Sewer is definitely going to need a budget amendment when the contract is settled with Aberdeen. And there are a couple different factors in that. One, you're currently a year behind, so the payments that you're making in 2024 are actually for 2023 services. So that's the first problem that I believe both cities want to get resolved in the new contract. The second issue is that at its face, it appears there's a likelihood that Cosmopolis has been paying a rate that is too low. So once you have the contract settled with Aberdeen, we will then know what the true cost is at that point. So we have $470,000 in the budget for 2025 for payments to Aberdeen. If you are able to negotiate a contract with Aberdeen that calls for a payment of $470,000 or less, then your rates as they are and the budget as it is would be just fine. If the Aberdeen contract is more than $470,000 that we have in the budget as a placeholder, you would need a budget amendment and a rate increase to pay for that.
Okay, one other thing around the sewer, this other operating, looks like it was like 2024, it was like 96,000, and then projected was 48, and then now 2025, it's 83. Can you explain that line?
Yes,
Other
hang on
operating?
just a moment.
It seems to be quite the up and down.
Yeah,
Pardon?
hang on just one second. I have the details here. So the factors in that are the excise taxes, which the 2023 actual was just under 30,000. We budgeted 33,000 in 2024, and in 2025, our projections for 24 are probably a little low. It's hard with cash basis to project perfectly because your cash basis, so it's really when cash goes out the door. And I know the city was a little bit behind on the return, so I think we probably had a little bit lower numbers in 2024 than realistic. The other number in there that's a pretty big number is insurance at $9,000. So the liability insurance has gone up pretty significantly year over year. Not uncommon. Pretty much all cities are experiencing that same thing. And then we have some smaller items, professional services maintaining consistent at 3,500, small tools, 1,000, fuel, $2,000, not a whole lot of changes there. So the big line item really is excise taxes followed by liability insurance.
Right.
Any other questions at this time? Okay, moving on to item 4, first reading of ordinance 1397, Tara.
This is the budget amendment ordinance, which is really nice and small this year. So that this is good. The city has really cut down on spending versus budget, which is great. There are only 2 items being amended. So we were adding budget for the street LED project, which is grant funded. That's $30,000. And then we are adding budget to the sewer fund. And what that is related to is that at the beginning of 2024, the city actually owed Aberdeen substantial amount for 2022 services. So the new administration came in and got that caught up, but that's putting us over budget in the sewer line. So we need to increase the budget by a net amount of 120,000. The past due amount at the beginning of 2024 was actually 170,000. The budget was 375. The actual for 2023 was 325,000. So we take the savings, if you will, from 2024 and net it against the past due amount for 2022. I would be happy to take questions on this. This is suggested as a first read with adoption happening at the next meeting.
And Tara, just to clarify, this is an amendment to the 2024 budget, not to the upcoming budget.
Yes.
Okay, and this is just something we need to do to kind of have our accounting in order? This is a reflection of our actual expenditures, or?
It's a reflection of actual expenditures. So council has the responsibility and authority to adopt a budget at the fund level. And when we say adopt a budget at the fund level, what that really means is that council needs to authorize the total expenditure budget of each fund. If we go over in a line item, but we're within the adopted council budget at the fund level, everything's fine legally. When we go over at the fund level on expenditures, council needs to amend the budget via ordinance in order to provide that authority. Even in the case of the street fund where the overage is 100% grant funded, we still need council authority for the additional 30,000 of expenditures.
Thank you.
Audience, any questions? Council, any questions? Hearing none, we're going to move on to public comment. At this time, I will open the floor for public comment for agenda items only. Hearing none, we'll move on to new business, council action. Council members, at this time, there is an action to be taken for a second reading of ordinance 1395. Is there a motion?
I'm just trying to find the language.
That's for the property tax,
Councilman
just to
Skinner.
remind you.
1396.
95,
95,
the property tax.
that's the property tax.
Yes.
Okay. I move to adopt the attached ordinance 1395, establishing the regular property tax levy for 2025.
I, Tim Skinner, second.
Is there discussion?
This will need to be a roll call vote if there's no discussion. If there is discussion, seeing none, I'm going to go ahead and take the roll call vote, Mary, with your approval.
Yeah.
Councilmember Skinner, how do you vote?
Yes.
Councilmember Nguyen, how do you vote?
Yay.
Councilmember Spargo, how do you vote?
Yay.
Councilmember Collette, how do you vote?
Yay.
Councilmember Darcy, how do you vote?
No.
The motion passes with 4 yeses to 1 no.
So at this time, we open the floor for public comment. At this time, it's for general comments, not just agenda comments. For public comment from citizens. Please state your name, first name.
Steve Davis. The, new municipal building, where are we at on that as far as budget, timeline, cost overruns? And, when the contractor is finished, what is going to be left to be done by the city?
So it's public comment time. I would be happy to sit down with you and show you our timeline, the budget, exactly where we're at. I am happy to reply, we are on track for the timeline and working very closely to stay within the budget. So please come in, make an appointment. I'd be very happy to share that information. Any other comments at this time?
My comment, Madam Mayor Carl, from the Hill, not far from you, is that it would be nice if we, the citizens, could get some answers to questions like Mr. Davis had just asked. It doesn't have to be necessarily to the dollar and cent, but just a brief overview, and just not on that, but on numerous other things that have occurred. If we, the people, could ask a simple question and get some sort of feedback, I think it would be appreciative. Thank you.
Thank you. So I appreciate that. And so what we can do, we have had a workshop at every council meeting, and I think that's a good agenda item. Not agenda item, but a good workshop, because I'm sure everybody is curious about that. And so I'd like to, at our next workshop, I'd be happy to present that information. And if other citizens have things that they feel that they'd like brought to a workshop, be happy to do that. Thank you. Okay, moving on, council comments at this time.
Start that.
Everybody have a fantastic Thanksgiving.
I'll second that motion, and, yeah, I did just want to briefly address the comments about, Q and A. We did discuss having that added to the agenda explicitly, you know, and, I'm happy to say more about it after the meeting, but we did decide that, you know, first of all, it's very uncommon practice for city councils to take Q and A during public comment. There are many reasons for that. Again, don't really care to go through, you know, that for everybody here, but if you'd like to talk afterwards, happy to explain some of the rationale. But yeah, I think it's a very reasonable suggestion, and it's a tough decision to not do that. But that was ultimately what we landed on. Thank you.
I also just wanted to follow up with happy holidays to everyone that's here tonight and on Zoom. Also, thank you to LeMays for coming out and then talking about the contract. And Frank took off, but I also wanted to thank Frank Chestnut for everything that he's done for the city of Cosmopolis.
I'd just like to wish everybody a happy Thanksgiving.
Councilperson Darcy?
No, I'm okay, I didn't have any comments.
Okay, and again, I want to wish everyone a safe and happy Thanksgiving. And again, we are always available at any time for discussion and appreciate your input. And we'll continue having workshops before council meetings to address citizens' concerns as we move forward, and especially in the new year. Clerk Barr, anything you'd like to add at the end of the meeting?
Happy holidays, happy Thanksgiving to everyone.
Councilman Spargo motions to adjourn the meeting.
Is there a second?
Councilman Colette seconds it.
Meeting adjourned.
At 7:33 PM.
Thank you.
Good to see you, old friend. You too.
Butt shoes are so sitting in that chair.
Do you want me to bring it?
Now, we need to put in for better. Mine are not. And I got half. Not yet.
Well, you're.
Why? I don't know.
Really.